cool with life.
Yeah. So, Nitro, also June 16th, 97, number 92. You never believe this, but the NWO arrived in a limo. Mm-hmm. It's becoming as repetitive as the boring 20-minute promo to open Raw. They're all happy. They're all smoking cigars. Dennis Rodman is with them, and they're in Chicago, so he's a huge star. The biggest star on the show, actually.
I have a theory that Rodman actually procured these cigars because they've never smoked cigars and walked to the ring before.
No, this was the first. So everyone comes out, and then most of them leave. It's Hogan, Robin, and Bischoff in the spotlight. They're hyping up their match against Giant and Luger at Bash at the Beach. Robin is I wouldn't say he's a great promo, but he's a natural promo. He's charismatic. He's got great delivery. He did refer to his opponent as Lex Luthor.
Twice he called him Lex Luthor.
They're trying to make it a pair of one-on-one matchups. Hogan versus Luger and Rodman versus Giant.
Oof.
Yeah. And they ran their mouths for a while, and they bailed. And later, am I the only one who missed this? Apparently, they tried to back out of the match here. I missed that entirely until the announcers brought it up later. And I don't know if I was not paying attention or if they just cut a bad promo.
I think they just cut a bad promo because I don't want to make any accusations. But based on this and the end of the show, I would think that maybe they all went drinking before the show, and then they drank during the show, and then they kept drinking after the show.
Okay.
I will say that when the NWO arrived with Rodman in Chicago, they got a monstrous ovation.
Sure.
They took their sweet time going to the ring, place going absolutely apeshit. They came across as the biggest baby faces on the entire planet. Now, granted, they're heels. That's beside the point. And I was watching this and I just realized, the Brett stuff is great. Team Canada, Shawn Michaels, Steve Austin. There's a lot of good stuff on Raw. But you know what? This show seems 1,000 times cooler than Raw. This seems like if you were a fella and all your friends were watching wrestling, they'd all be watching this show, and you would be watching this show with them because this seems like the cool show of the two. Then they got in the ring, Rodman fucked everything up, and it was like a WWE segment with Stephanie McMahon where it was hours upon hours of them just trying to get them over.
Oh, yeah.
In the Stupid Larry comment of the week, Zbyszko referred to Dennis Rodman as Denise.
He also said that the people in Chicago love him. Makes me embarrassed to be born in Chicago. Because everything has to be about Larry.
Yeah.
Glacier versus Mortis. This is a very 1990s match.
This was actually one of the better matches I've ever seen Glacier in.
This may have been a 70s match. All that
karate
afterwards.
There was a lot of karate involved. God bless Chris Kanyon, but he had the bright idea to set up the stairs in such a way he would fall off the apron and crotch himself on the stairs, which could have hurt you very badly in a number of ways. And it wasn't the big spot at the end that turned the tide. It wasn't the finish. It was something they did 10 seconds in, and 10 seconds later is totally forgotten.
Cool spot, though.
Looked great. Wrath comes out, climbs on the apron. Glacier throws Mortis into him, hits the cryonic kick for the win. And then Wrath lays Glacier out. They're beating him up. And Sinister Minister standing in the ring, whatever his name was here. And Ernest Miller hits the ring from behind the Sinister Minister and leapfrogs him. Mm-hmm. That was awesome. And then he and Glacier clear the ring with karate kicks aplenty. And I can't deny it, Ernest Miller looked cool here.
See, that's the key. This whole blood runs cold and the karate and everything like that. Eric Bischoff was such a karate mark that he probably thought this was just the most awesome thing ever. And normally, I think it sucks, but I have to say, Ernest Miller had such cool kicks, and Mortis took such awesome bumps for his cool kicks, that this whole thing was pretty goddamn cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For once.
Now, the funniest thing was they clear the ring, the babyfaces do. Only after the ring is cleared, security arrives to stand there and do nothing because the fight was over. Okerlund interviews Medusa on the ramp. She had lost to Akira Hokuto at Great American Bash the night before, and due to stipulations had to retire. And she was doing her best to work up tears. She's thanking her fans and her family and her supporters and her friends. Nearly collapsed on Gene's shoulder and says goodbye. And these fans just didn't care.
I didn't either.
And it's not as if she's been a big part of this show.
Even in 97, the idea that people are retiring is ridiculous. But the problem is, she did a sad promo. Remember when they did the challenge for this match, and she wasn't sure she wanted to take it?
Right.
And she had to act.
Yeah.
Very concerned. Mm-hmm. God bless Medusa. Lovely woman even today. Horrible actress.
Yeah.
The performance here where she had to retire was so horrible that everybody is booing and they're angry, and Gene Okerlund has to tell the people to please shut up. We're having a touching moment here. Mm-hmm. Nobody bought it.
Now, does she come back under a hood or something?
No, I looked this up.
Remember.
I looked this up. This was, in fact, her last appearance on Nitro for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was supposed to be a retirement or if
she was going to become a valet.
Yeah.
Not a truck driver?
Well, she eventually became a truck driver.
Down the road. Dean Malenko came out for a promo. He called out Eddie Guerrero, dared him to face him like a man. But
to be fair, he called out Guerrero.
I see. Well, I guess he got his answer then, because
Yeah,
Chavo
right.
Guerrero Jr. came out. So, Chavo was very, very green at this point. He was fucking stuff up left and right. And the big finish is Dean hit a neutralizer like Cesaro does. He goes to hook the cloverleaf when Eddie finally appears, and he comes on a stage and stops. So Dean says, all right. And he puts Chavito in the cloverleaf, and Chavito taps, and that's that.
Favorite part of this match, both of them are staring at each other. They both take a step forward, and both of them at the same time duck.
Yeah. That happened twice on this show.
Right, because it also happened in the Jericho Dragon match.
Yes.
That match was much worse.
Yes.
This was a decent match. Malenko did a good job with the guy. That's about all I got to say about that.
They plugged the website and said if you go to WCWWrestling.com, you get an exclusive interview with Ric Flair. They did not call it a podcast because no one knew what a podcast was, but that's what this was. It was a podcast. Mm-hmm. Super Calo versus La Parka.
What does it matter with Super Calo diving into the audience on small children?
You know, Sabu's nickname is the homicidal, suicidal, genocidal guy. Wrong person.
Yo, yeah.
Calo is the most homicidal, suicidal wrestler of all time.
But okay, he just came back from breaking his arm. Mm-hmm. First match back, he does the tumbleweed from the inside of the ring to the outside onto the floor, mm-hmm. which he did in this match. Mm-hmm. And then he does that crazy flip dive that takes him about 3 rows deep in the crowd.
Yeah.
But this time, there's a small child in the front row.
Well, when you buy your ticket, Craig.
When I buy my ticket, that's fine. I'll catch Super Calo. You know who I don't expect to catch Super Calo? My son.
Actually, I've seen your son. He probably could catch Super Calo.
That's probably true.
It's actually valid.
Let's talk about
this boy did not.
Listen, all these things, the child was not hurt, nor was Super Calo hurt on anything, until the end when he was hurt by the other guy.
That's true.
Well, yeah, there's more. So they do a match. It's 2 guys doing a bunch of flips, and Calo hits a Rana and wins. Right. So as soon as the ref counts 3, Parka jumps up. He lays Calo out, running the entire match null and void. And then something dumb happens. Mm-hmm. And La Parka goes into the ring, pulls out a chair. It is a plastic chair, like you sat on at school. It's a one-piece plastic chair.
A hard plastic chair.
Mm-hmm. And he picks it up and swings it like a mofo and breaks it over Super Calo's head. Don't do this.
You know,
broke the chair.
Yes.
Send the guy to the hospital, knocked out. And according to the Observer, Dave wrote that La Parka felt worse because of the guilt. And I thought,
no.
You know, maybe he felt, I don't want to say he didn't feel bad, but what the fuck was he thinking was going to happen?
What if you swing a hard object at somebody and it breaks?
This was not like an accident.
No.
Where, like Joey Mercury when his face got destroyed, that was an accident. Accidents happen in wrestling all the time. Accidents happen and you feel bad. But when you grab a chair and you swing it as hard as you possibly can and you hit the guy square in the head, the chair breaks and he's down and out, what were you expecting?
Caught up in the moment, I guess.
What were you expecting?
He raised the chair high above his head and brought it crashing down, and it broke the seat of the chair on his head.
Yeah, everything went according to plan here. So what this was for about 6 minutes of ultra violence, of bodies flying in the stands and landing on the mat and chairs broken over heads. At the end of the day, nobody got over. This accomplished nothing. He had Giant and Luger coming out for a promo. It was Lex's hometown of Chicago, but they still preferred Rodman in the NWO. Here was where I was clued in that the NWO had been trying to get out of that tag match earlier. It was news to me. Lex insists they had a valid contract. Reminds everyone last week he made Hogan submit. He was being sarcastic and saying, oh, the NWO is so tough and so bad, we should back up now. And Giant roars that he's got the guts and the goods and the choke slam. He dares them to come and get it. And Lex translated this as a challenge to the NWO for a match tonight. You go to break, and they announced the NWO has accepted the challenge, which means, yes, Dennis Rodman, at the time, was one of the biggest stars in American sports, was going to make his in-ring debut for free with barely an hour's build.
Sure. Well, you don't pay it off.
I guess not.
So Luger had to cover for those jokers doing a bad job cutting a promo in the first few minutes of the show. You ever worked with somebody who was drunk?
Why are you looking at me?
I don't
Why are
know.
you looking at us?
Well, I know you haven't because you don't work well with others.
What are you talking about? We do a Christmas show every year.
Do you mean wrestling working or working?
No, working.
I never worked with someone who was drunk.
It sucks because they're your coworkers and your buddies most of the time. So you kind of have to pick up their slack and cover for them. That's how I felt Lex Luger was right here.
I feel like that on a daily basis.
See, if you showed up to work drunk and you ruined my day, I let people know about it. I will not cover your ass for nothing.
Bitches get stitches.
Amazing French Canadians versus Harlem Heat. There's a tag match. Stevie gets the hot tag. Stevie Ray makes his comeback.
Man, you're underselling this one.
It's not very good.
Stevie Ray's comeback was a thing of beauty.
It was much better than Mosh's.
What a house of fire he was. They hit the heat bomb.
Heat bomb.
Parker takes...
Every move in the 90s was your name, followed by bomb, lock, or drop.
That's right, the Vinny bomb. I remember that one.
That's right.
So they hit the heat bomb, and Colonel Parker takes the referee. Rougeau hits Booker with a boot to the back of his head. Then they hit their finish. No, I'm sorry. He hits him with the thing, and Booker kicks out.
Yeah.
And then Harlem Heat hits their finish and gets the win.
Yeah, which is not the heat bomb.
Why in the hell did they do any of this stuff with Rob Parker if it led to nothing?
Because they had to book 75 different angles in a 3-minute match.
This sucked.
Yes. Then, J.J. Dillon, Harlem Heat, Gene Okerlund, and Sister Sherry were all on the ramp talking about at least 3 different things at once, I think.
Okay, what I think happened the night before was there was a Harlem Heat versus Steiner's match.
Correct.
And Vincent interfered, and so Harlem Heat won via DQ.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, Dylan has to make the NWO match with Rodman for tonight official. They start talking about this top contenders match and how there was interference and a DQ. Everyone's shouting at each other. Dylan books Steiner's Heat rematch for next week. Guarantees there will be a legitimate winner.
I paused to let you get more details in, but you didn't get any in. So he claims Harlem Heat won via DQ in this number 1 contenders match. He says, J.J. Dillon says, the NWO is attempting to manipulate the rankings in order to get easier opponents, right?
Yeah.
Brian's logging back on.
And I just thought, thank you, I was hoping that people would see that as a dramatic pause and not me playing with the computer. So I just
playing.
thought,
Type your password in.
why is JJ taking this out on Harlem Heat? He's flat out accusing them of being in cahoots with
the NWO.
the NWO.
Sure.
With there's zero evidence of this. Mm-hmm. So he signs them to a rematch next week, and all I could think as a fan was, Harlem Heat got fucked. It's not their fault this idiot ran in. They won via DQ. That's what he said.
They were promised the winner would get the title match.
That's right. It felt like JJ was screwing these two guys.
So Vincent comes out. Oh, there's more?
Oh, no, Vincent. This Vincent, his promo. That was worth my $9.99 this month for the network. You know how much money this guy made during his career?
More than minimum wage?
Not enough to keep him out of the subway selling pictures for $5.
My God. His promo was so bad, I can't believe they let him talk. And when Harlem Heat beat the shit out of him afterwards, I was just cackling and howling.
The funny part is when they ripped off his shirt and it was obvious that he wore a shirt all the time in WCW. Just flabby and hairy and...
Why not? I mean, aside from his own self-respect, what was the point? What's the point of being in shape?
Because when I think of self-respect and dignity, the first thing that pops to my mind is Virgil.
Well, point I'm making is, with the job he had, the only reason to stay in shape is your own self-respect.
He had none.
Because it's not for your fucking career.
Yes. So this segment was a mess. We had
God, his promo. I wish I had it in front of me to play it.
You can load it up. It won't take that long.
I don't care that much.
Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Six for the Cruiserweight title. Outsiders are out there being big and scary. So you've all seen X-Pac do the Bronco Buster, right? Mm-hmm. He sits the guy down in the corner and flies at him and lands crotch first in his face. I'm sure it's no fun. But he takes Rey here and turns Rey face down so his belly is on the mat and his head's leaning up against the turnbuckle and then does the Bronco Buster? Don't ever do that again.
Oh,
Looked
my
like
God.
it sucked.
Good Lord.
But you know what? It's X-Pac. So I have full faith that Rey was not injured at all.
Yes, but if he had been, the injury would have been severe. The risk to reward ratio is way out of whack for this one. So Rey makes his comeback, does a flip dive from the top rope to the floor, hits the diving Rana in the ring, goes to make the cover. Outsiders try to hit the ring for the DQ, but itty bitty little Rey Mysterio is the best hummingbird you ever saw flying around taking these giants out. And Nash takes a big giant bump over the top rope. The place is going crazy. The place is popping more for this than any match they have all night. And then Six grabs him and puts him in the Buzz Killer and taps him out, and Six wins.
You know, the X-Pac heat term that everybody used for a decade before they decided they liked the guy. You know what X-Pac was? You know why he was hated? Because he was Bobby Fulton. But he was a star. He was a guy that was a small, skinny guy. And unlike all of the other small, skinny guys in WCW that did lucha and high flying and all of this craziness, he was just a great worker.
Yeah.
And I think it made people angry that he was the guy that would beat the guys like Rey Mysterio. And he wasn't a Super Calo or a La Parka or a Ray Jr. or a Hoovy or a high-flying, exciting guy. He was just a good, solid worker, and that pissed people off. That's the only thing that I can think of about why he was so hated.
By the way, let's not gloss over the fact that the Outsiders piled into the ring.
Oh, there's more, yeah.
Laid waste to Rey. You've got that.
Well, go ahead.
And Nash ended the beating with the sickest and ugliest powerbomb I've ever seen to Rey Mysterio.
I wrote careless.
Yeah.
Careless.
Sloppy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Craig,
I'm looking for
you
what
have
I
a
used.
child. Vinny does not have a child.
Right.
I wrote very dangerous powerbomb.
What's funny is Nash, I think, had a child at this point. I think its baby was born in like 96 or something like that. Google it for me. Tristan Nash. Find out how old he is.
This isn't creepy at all.
Why is it creepy? There's a point in all of this.
Now there's a bearded man I'm looking at.
Yeah, how old is he? When was he born?
It's got the news on their unfortunate brawl they had.
Oh, yeah, they had that incident.
That's terrible news.
Powerbomb him then.
He was 18 in 2014, so he would have been 3 or 4 at the time of this Nitro then.
Okay, so as someone who has
Well,
a
one.
baby...
No, I'm sorry, he would have been 1.
One. Okay, so he had a very small baby. What do you do with a very small baby? You're ultra careful with them.
You got to make sure their head doesn't.
Yeah, you
fall
don't let
off.
their head wobble too much. You
Yeah.
take care of them. You hold them. I'm not saying that Rey Mysterio was a baby, but I'm saying that when you're 6'10",
Oh, yeah.
and the other guy is 5'2" and 150
You're
pounds...
significantly larger than another human being. You do everything you can as a giant man not to break that small human
Yeah,
being.
take care of the guy. He lifted him up, and he just threw him right on his head and shoulder. Like he didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
It just about killed the guy.
It looked like a deliberate attempt to end the guy's career.
God.
So
Isn't that hard to just lift him up and put him down on his back? He's 150 fucking pounds. It's not like the Giant when he dropped him on his head.
Yeah,
that's at least the
this
guy
was
was too
worse.
heavy and you thought you were too strong and you weren't.
No.
Nash is such a lazy worker. He got him like halfway up and then just let go of him.
Yeah. So they cut a promo and they're celebrating their win over Piper and Flair the night before. They bring out Savage. Savage brags about his win over Dallas Page. Page appears in the crowd. They were in the United Center in Chicago, which I didn't realize was such a big building.
Huge.
He was way, way, way up there. He says, Savage, you needed Hogan's help to take me out twice. Now you're teaming up with Hall. Nobody knows Scott Hall better than I do. I found myself a partner. Everyone knows who he is, and I challenge you and Scott Hall to a tag team match. I think the NWO accepted.
It was sad because I could barely see Kimberly.
Chris Jericho versus Ultimo Dragon. Sonny Ono came out, offered Jericho an envelope full of cash in exchange for a selfie. Jericho pushed him away. Which, now that I think about it, would be a great spot for his new gimmick. Someone should approach Jericho in the hallway for a selfie. He should push them away, call him a stupid idiot, and go to the ring.
And take the cash.
So they opened this match with a big, complicated Ospreay Ricochet style spot. And it's going fine. And then both guys ducked at the same time. And then they bonked into each other. And
the
neither knew who should go
Matador
down.
spot.
Yeah. So Jericho does a suplex and grabs a hold. There's boring chants for Chris Jericho and Ultimo Dragon. They come back for some big moves. There's a superplex. There's a double powerbomb. There's more boring chants. And Dragon hits a tiger suplex for the win.
That's fair.
I think they got their time cut, and it's funny because Jericho just, as soon as shit started going wrong, he panicked. And he started doing all these moves he's never done before. This leg drop. He randomly did a leg drop. And they did this drop kick off the top, which essentially he jumped off the post and landed on his feet and brushed Dragon, who took this flying bump. This was a mess.
Lee Marshall made a weasel joke in the Road Report. Okay, Gene brings out Roddy Piper for a promo. Now, here's what I was able to piece together by the end of this, what had happened the night before.
Apparently, Roddy was in the NWO locker room at this point.
That would explain a lot. The match had been Roddy and Flair versus Hall and Nash, and of course, wherever Hall and Nash went those days, Six followed. So during the match, Six and Flair had brawled to the back, and Rick was never seen again, and so Piper was left alone, and the Outsiders beat him. All right? So Gene brings Piper out here, and he says, Flair disappeared during the match with you the night before. Where did he go? And Roddy says, all I know is I've heard the rumors about Flair leaving me high and dry. Flair is my friend. He would never do that. I got to the back, and Flair was gone, and his bag was gone, and the other horsemen were gone. I'm sure there's a perfectly fine explanation for all this.
Drinking.
So he calls out Flair. And Flair says, Roddy, I would never abandon you. And Roddy says, cool. And they're friends again. Roddy came off like the biggest moron in this segment.
All I know is that they said this misunderstanding has been cleared up. And all I could think was, Piper's turning on the guy. I just figured it was a swerve.
Piper's turning?
Yeah.
All right.
Piper's going to turn on Flair. That's why he was so... That's what I think. I actually don't know. I forget where it goes, but that would explain why Piper was such an idiot and made up with him, and he's going to get him. He's going to stab him in the back.
This does not explain why Flair left the arena mid-match.
It doesn't. It's WCW.
Okay.
Don't think about it too much.
Maybe
You've got me there.
curvy blonde was making eyes with him from the third row. Or brunette.
He's never been the pickiest guy. Vicious and Delicious versus Jeff Jarrett and Steve McMichael. They didn't mention like halfway through this match that it was in Chicago and Steve McMichael's in the ring. So the first 2 minutes of this were great. Because Scott Norton's a giant man and he had no fear of Mongo. And he is stiffing this guy left and right, just beating the uckfee out of him. Screaming, this isn't the NFL! But then here's the thing. Mongo's a tough bastard too.
Right.
So he just, when it's his turn, he just flips the switch and he's throwing palms and Norton's bumping all over the place. This is great.
That's why I love wrestling. Even in MMA, if you have two heavyweights, sometimes they get tired, sometimes it's boring. Pro wrestling, you get two giant dudes, and they just pound on each other. It's fucking great.
Oh, yeah.
I loved Norton and Mongo together. I am just in love with Mongo lately.
It's been great.
I remember in the 90s, it was like, Mongo's a horseman. Jesus, this guy. But, man, he was wondrous.
So eventually, they cut off Jarrett. And they're beating him up for a while, and he will make his own comeback and not tag out, and they'll cut him off again. And finally, Bagwell slaps Mongo. Mongo comes in without a tag. He helps Jarrett hit a double backdrop. And Jarrett says, hey, Mongo, partner, let's do a strut together. And he begins to strut, and Mongo says, fuck you. And he spins him around and leaves him out with a tombstone and drops him. So he looks in the camera and says, "This is payback for Jarrett hitting me in the back last night." Mongo leaves. Deborah, for the first time, leaves with him.
Mm-hmm.
Jarrett is dead. Bagwell pins him. It's all fine and dandy, but please, 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 please tell me that Jarrett will never be considered a horseman again. I can't take the dysfunctional horseman again. I can't go back to it. It's dead and gone now.
I love this segment because we had Mongo versus Vicious.
Yes.
I presume he's vicious and not delicious.
As best I can tell.
Okay. And I also loved that Mongo is mad at the guy because he hit him. And he made it very clear, I honestly don't care if you hit me on purpose or not, but you hit me. And so you deserve this beating. And he deliberately waited until the end of the match to beat the guy's ass. Because he's Mongo. He didn't mind having a fight first.
Yeah.
They were going to have a fight, and when everything was going their way, he was going to kill the guy.
Yes.
And he did, and he explained why. It was great.
Heck of a tombstone, too. I don't think I would have trusted Mongo with that move.
Now, I can't believe they gave him that move.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts.
But he's a strong guy.
Yeah. Hogan and Rodman came out to face Luger and the Giant. As my notes here read, first, Hogan and Rodman came out for a promo. I have no idea what they said. It was a catchphrase verse. They went to break, and they came back. Hogan and Rodman are still talking. They say, fuck it, and they left. Out come Luger and the Giant. They chase them back to the ring. So everyone's in the ring. There's this big stare-down moment. And then Hogan and Rodman go to throw punches. They are both blocked. Giant grabs Rodman by the neck, lifts him into the air, kind of like for a chokeslam. Hogan makes a save on that, so Giant goes after Hogan, but Rodman drops the Giant with a belt shot for seriously the biggest pop on the entire show. And then the Outsiders and Six and Savage come out, and they destroy Giant and Luger, and they spray paint him, and that is how it ended.
Man, the amount of garbage
Thank you.
that was thrown into the ring during this, it was a blizzard. One of the biggest blizzards of garbage ever.
It was like they lit up a sign that said, please pelt the ring with garbage.
It was weird about it because, like, when Hogan and Rodman came out at the beginning of the show, they were gods.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the show, they beat up these two geeks, and then everyone pelts the ring with garbage.
It's because most fans, they see that on TV, and then it's like, okay, this is
That's
our
the
cue.
gimmick.
This is our cue to start throwing stuff at the ring.
All I know is Rodman was doing his hilarious elbow drops.
Oh.
Which is, I'm going to run at you, and I'm just going to fall on you with my back repeatedly.
Yeah.
Granted, he doesn't have much weight, and he was falling under the Giant, but I was laughing.
Rodman was a huge man, dude.
Well, he was a big man.
He's a
but
large person.
he probably weighed
like
less than
220.
200. 220?
About that. He was
Probably
6'7".
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier to teach a 200-pound guy to drop an elbow on a 500-pound guy than vice versa.
That's for
fair
sure.
enough.
Yeah.
And then they all stood there celebrating like 7 guys at a bar at 4 a.m. after last call.
2 a.m.
Exactly what they look like.
Chicago bars.
God, I just watch Hall there, and it's like he didn't do jack shit on the show except drink, it looked like.
It's possible.
Made his $15,000. What a life. That
Could
was
be
a show,
worse.
everybody.
That was the show.
It was a show. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. Vinny and I, over the next few days, will catch up on Lucha Underground and the WCW, the NWA WCW show. Probably starting Thursday, maybe next Sunday. We'll figure it out. But one way or another, we'll get it done. And that is it from here. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Bye.